In continuation, quoting the Gosho lines, I am most grieved over your Lord's illness. Although he has not professed faith in the Lotus Sutra, you are a member of his clan. And it is thanks to his consideration that you are able to make offerings to the sutra. Thus, these offerings to the sutra may become prayers solely for your Lord's recovery. Think of a small tree under a large one, or grass by a great river. Though they do not receive rain or water directly, they nonetheless thrive, partaking of dew from the large tree or drawing moisture from the river. The same holds true with the relationship between you and your Lord. To give another example, King Ajatashatru was an enemy of the Buddha. But because Jivaka, a minister in the king's court, believed in the Buddha and continually made offerings to him, the blessings accruing from his actions are said to have returned to Ajatashatru. End of the Gosho lines. The wise always have appreciation for their benefactors. Having followed in the footsteps of his father, Shijo Kingo was a second generation samurai trainer from the Emma family, which was directly related to one of the Hojo regents who ruled the Kamakura military government. Both father and son had shown the utmost loyalty to the Emma family in times of grave peril. It is therefore not difficult to imagine that Lord Emma would have placed deep trust in Kingo. The latter only incurred his lord's disfavor after he tried to convert him to the Daishonin's teachings. Subjected to unjustified harassment and disciplinary action, including transfer to another estate in a remote province, it appears that Kingo even considered initiating a lawsuit against Emma. The Daishonin, however, urges him to exert restraint, writing him in another letter dated around the same period. I quote, as vassals, you, your parents, and your close relatives are deeply indebted to your lord. Unquote. And, quote, even if he never shows you the slightest further consideration, you should not hold a grudge against your lord. I unquote. Ingratitude ranks among the very worst kind of human conduct, as it incurs evil karma. The Daishonin tells Shijo Kingo that rather than feeling resentful towards his lord who is directly bringing pressure to bear on him, he should focus on battling the real adversary, namely the workings of the three obstacles and four devils that are manifested in Emma's actions. Far more deserving of blame, he points out, is Ryokan, whose villainous schemes were largely behind the persecution of the Daishonin's followers and the false assumptions made by Kingo's lord. He declares that Ryokan is the epitome of the group known as arrogant false sages, one of the three powerful enemies of Buddhism. It is an admonition to recognize the true nature of such negative and obstructive forces. Following this guidance from the Daishonin, Kingo conducted himself with wisdom and utmost sincerity in his daily life and interactions with others. As a result, when illness struck Emma, sought treatment from Shijo Kingo, who was also renowned as an excellent physician. Learning that Emma was unwell, the Daishonin writes in his letter, I quote, I am most grieved over your lord's illness. Unquote. Even though it might have appeared on the surface that Emma was the very person inflicting sufferings on Shijo Kingo, a sincere practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, the Daishonin was deeply concerned about his illness. When it comes to truth or error in terms of the law or teaching, Nichiren Buddhism maintains a rigorous attitude. But when it comes to people's sufferings, it always has a spirit of tolerance and compassion. It was the Darshanan spirit to do whatever he could to help those suffering, even if they were people who slandered the law. Thinking of their plight, he exclaimed, How tragic, how pitiful! He was indignant in his heart at human suffering. The essence of Buddhism is found in the heartfelt wish for the happiness of each person. My mentor, second Soka Gakkai president Josai Toda, shared the same spirit as the Daishonin. If someone discarded their faith, he was filled with deep sorrow. How tragic this is, he once exclaimed. It hurts as though a gimlet is boring into my heart. The Soka Gakkai has realized brilliant and unprecedented development because it has inherited this noble spirit to go out among the people and take action for their happiness. In this writing, the Daishonin points out that Lord Emma, while not a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra himself, makes it possible for Shijo Kingo to give offerings to the sutra. Therefore, he says, the merit and good fortune acquired by Kingo will also extend to Emma. The Daishonin cites the example of a small tree beneath a large tree or grass on the banks of a great river. Though the small tree or the grass may not receive rain or water from the river directly, it will still receive natural moisture in the form of dew and thrive. He also notes that in Shakyamuni's day, there was a king named Ajatashatru who was a great enemy of Buddhism, but that this ruler was ultimately protected because his physician Jivaka was a devoted follower of the Buddha. In a family too, if there is one person who radiates the brilliance of the mystic law, then all members of the family, including those who do not practice the Daishonin's Buddhism, will be protected. An individual can similarly illuminate their workplace and their community. That is how vast and immeasurable the benefit of the mystic law is. Accordingly, the most important thing from the standpoint of our Buddhist practice is that we ourselves, irrespective of what others may do, become like the large tree or the great river in this analogy. Next topic is the principle of the Buddha nature manifesting itself from within and bringing forth protection from without. Quoting the Gosho lines, Buddhism teaches the most important doctrine that When the Buddha nature manifests itself from within, it will receive protection from without. This is one of its fundamental principles. The Lotus Sutra says, quote, I have profound reverence from you, unquote. The Nirvana Sutra states, quote, all living beings alike possesses the Buddha nature, unquote. Bodhisattva Ashwagosha's Awakening of Faith in the Mahayana says, quote, because the true abiding law invariably permeates one's life and exerts its influence, illusions are instantly extinguished and the Dharma body manifests itself. Unquote. Bodhisattva Maitreya's treatise on the stages of yoga practice contains a similar statement. What is hidden turns into manifest virtue. Closing the Gosho lines. Here, the Daishanin explains one of the key Buddhist principles, namely, the principle of the Buddha nature manifesting itself from within and bringing forth protection from without. In other words, when we activate the Buddha nature inside us, it will induce the protective functions of life to work from without. It is we ourselves who possess this Buddha nature, and as such, it is also up to us to awaken to it and manifest it. When we practice the Daishanin's Buddhism, the mystique law comes to permeate our life and exert its influence. That is, our Buddha nature, once revealed, pervades our life in the same way that burning incense imbues our clothing with its fragrance. Our Buddha nature emerges like a fragrance wafting in the breeze. And while we speak of receiving protection from the heavenly deities or the positive forces of the universe, the first step in that process is to embark on our own inner transformation. In how those initially aspiring to the way can attain Buddhahood through the Lotus Sutra, the Daishanin writes, I quote, when we revere Myoho Renge Kyo inherent in our own life as the object of devotion, the Buddha nature within us is summoned forth and manifested by our chanting of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. This is what is meant by Buddha. To illustrate, when a caged bird sings, birds who are flying in the sky are thereby summoned and gather around, strives to get out. When with our mouths we chant the mystique law, our Buddha nature being summoned will invariably emerge. The Buddha nature of Brahma and Chakra being called will protect us, and the Buddha nature of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas being summoned will rejoice. Unquote. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo to the Gohonzon, the object of devotion in Nichiren Daishanin's Buddhism, is in fact the same as summoning forth and praising the Buddha nature that is inherent in our own life and resides in all things in the universe. In response to the sound of our chanting, by which means we reveal our Buddha nature, all benevolent deities throughout the universe move into action to protect us. This principle succinctly expresses the unique character of Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism, which is completely different from faith that pins hope for salvation on the agency of some external power. To be continued in the next video.